Okay, guys, hello and welcome back to Relevant Founders, brought to you by Relevant Software. Relevant is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers world-class standard products for Fortune 500 companies and promising startups. Today, we've got on the show with us Martin Sokk, co-founder and CEO at Lightyear. Martin, hello, how are you doing?
Hi, Matthew. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, Martin. Martin, tell me, before we start talking about Lightyear, so much to get through, but what I want to know, just tell me a little bit more about who is Martin. Tell me something that maybe you don't know.
So Martin is a lifelong product builder. I've been doing that in more enterprise organization, but also like various different stages in startups. And I think Martin is a rather simple person who believes that technology should equalize the playing field for everyone. So let me give you an example. If I have $1 million, a lot of stuff gets quite a bit more pleasant for you. So prices go down, people take more care of you, service will be faster, more competent and whatnot. If I have $100, it seems that not many people really care what you do. So I think technology is, again, the biggest and coolest thing is equalizing that field. So I worked in Transferwise previously. Transferwise did that, like doesn't really matter how rich you are, how connected you are. It kind of makes your ability to move money from one point to another, like in an equal basis, low cost, transparent, really good service and whatnot. And now I think in the same way in the Lightyear is that if you have opportunity to take this wholesale technical hardcore investing infrastructure and connect that into your mobile app, then you have an opportunity where you don't really care if you have $1 million to invest or $100 to invest. You get equally good service and price and whatnot. So I think this is something that fascinates me, and that's what I have been doing like almost all my life.
Nice. Yeah. I've seen, looking at your bio, I've seen, obviously, you mentioned Transferwise there. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. But let's start off, Martin. Tell me, what is Lightyear? Tell me a little bit about Lightyear.
So Lightyear got started effectively from this kind of weird situation where me and my co-founder Michael, we had a discussion about investing, and we both have been investing for a long period of time. And then people come to us often, it's like, hey, where should I go and invest? And then it's like, we don't have a good answer for that because most of the solutions are not good out there. They are like expensive, difficult. You don't have access to global markets. Like, it's weird. And like when we start looking into that, like what is the thing what you can tell your friend, or like what's the service would be good for them, then we in the end decided that we need to build our own, and we start building it. And like the whole goal of Lightyear is to bring down all the fee structure into like almost free to or almost free level, connect all the global markets in a way that you can use them in whatever manner you want to do, and also you have an opportunity to be kind of European. So we are focused 100% for a European market. It seems that the investment world, people forget that Europe has a lot of languages, a lot of payment methods, taxation questions, the ways people invest. So we are focusing on making that happen.
Not so simple as people think a lot of the time, is it?
Exactly.
Martin, tell me, you said there that people were asking you, where's the best place to invest? What do I do? How do I invest? Why was it there was a lack of, say, companies like yours, companies like Lightyear, when you started, only 2020, so less than 2 years ago? Why was there a lack, and has it kind of increased since?
Yeah, I think it comes from various different kind of reasons. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I think the one is European investment world has been less developed as a US one for many years. I think the delays between US and Europe is roughly 20 years. Like, you can see that US people went from banks to the online solutions, and then there's a kind of free trading, free investing kind of wave coming in, and like a lot of stuff has gotten better. Europe lacks this infrastructure, so this infrastructure is not here because I think investing hasn't been a kind of center stage of Europe for a while, but also Europe is quite a bit more complex. So in the US, you have a handful of markets. Everybody invests in dollar. You have same regulator. You have this kind of famous popular companies that are like really prominent across the world and whatnot. And now you come into the Europe, and every country has their own exchange. Germany, every city has exchange. You see all the different currencies. You have maybe sometimes less exciting companies in one place or another, and like bringing all that together has been quite a difficult journey. If you look into how people have been building kind of products in general, then international products are incredibly difficult. You can see that in the banking products. Like most banks in the world are actually local products. You can think of like HSBC as like a massive company in all different places, but still in many ways they're only operating in a couple of countries. They are having this local presence everywhere, and often they actually have the, like local and separate entities and whatnot. So it's not the global thing. Like I think Wise has done really good expansion into various different markets. Amazon has done something, but still not everywhere. So you can see that people are getting more and more international experience, and like that I think gets into Europe now as well.
It's interesting there. You're talking about obviously the challenges there a lot that come with it. We're going to come onto that in a bit because I know you've recently broke into the European market as well. So you're expanding pretty much in an exponential Lightyear kind of speed. Yeah. So let's start right from the beginning though. Tell me about your original MVP. How did your original MVP look?
So after we figured out that we need to build something, then like MVP in the financial world or investing world is a little bit more difficult than maybe like traditional startup in a way. The problem is that you need to have a lot of regulatory reviews, you need to have a lot of processes and rather kind of complex partner structure. It depends what you're doing, but for us having real-time trading, protecting customer funds and everything, that took, like our MVP was actually quite mature product that we had access to the, I think like 2000 US instruments, everything fractional. We built our own technology where we have like European mindset in it. So we had multi-currency support. Everybody got like 3 different currency accounts with actual local IBANs and SWIFT codes and sort codes and whatnot in a way. So that didn't center really good partners for doing an FX, giving them an access to the US markets, like full on onboarding. So the MVP was rather sizable product. We did that in 9 months and we launched into UK market. So UK was our first market.
How come you chose the UK as your first market? Was there a particular kind of strategic reason?
Yeah, like UK is still biggest English-speaking market in Europe. Plus, also it's quite mature in a way, like what partners you have there, opportunities to work together. We know this market from our Wise days. We both have been living there. We have been like spending time there, working with the customers. So we have a somewhat good understanding what kind of product is needed, who are the customers, what are the problems we are solving, and yeah. And the second part is like, if you have that MVP done, then now we decided to go after the European market and do effectively the same thing for every single market now.
So is it kind of like, if it works in the UK, it should work in Europe, or is there no kind of guarantee like that?
No, I don't think that's true. So I think it's actually, it's often opposite in a way. You see these kind of companies are building a product in their own country and they think like, hey, it works in my country and now I'm going to go in another country. It works there as well. I think that's in most cases is not true. It's not true because people are different, cultures are different, the ways people are operating. They're like, even the simpler ways, like how do you put money into the account? UK people think one way, Europeans, not even Europeans, like every single country in Europe thinks a different way. So you have to understand the local culture. But again, coming down back to the question, like how do you build financial products? Then like you have these kind of base platforms are rather important. So how do you onboard customers? So yes, I have a different way how to verify customers, but I have the process. How do I onboard it? Like I need to gather some documents, get them validated. I need to create the accounts for them. I need to be able to connect into their own global investment world exchanges, FX, and so on. So the base is similar. So I can build that base and like extend that base. And I think like one of the benefits of us is actually us starting to from Europe in mind means that every single thing what we do, we understand that in a different country it's different. So think about it in a way that you're building your product in Germany or in the UK, Germany or UK in mind. And like now what's going to happen is that you bake in this one currency, in this one language, the one set of kind of exchanges and partners and whatnot. And now if you want to go into the neighboring country, like for example, Hungary, you understand like, oh, these people need different language, currency, regulatory review, payment methods. And like you haven't built anything that in mind means that you need to effectively rebuild your system. And in the worst case, you need to rebuild the business case. And that doesn't really make sense anymore. So for us, like Europe is like front and center, and we bring all the kind of European aspects into one product from the get-go.
So you were talking there about your original MVP, and obviously you had quite a mature product by the time it came about. Fintech kind of startups have kind of a different kind of way of doing it. With that in mind, obviously the amount of work that had to go into that, how did you work around that? Did you have an in-house team right at the beginning, or did you outsource?
Yeah, we had everything in-house. So we went out quite early stage and found the people who are really experienced in that particular field, and then we brought them in, and like that kind of helped us to have everything like really fast paced.
Wow. Okay. And how many worked on that original product? How many did you have?
So today we have 28 people. So in a year and a half, from 0 to 30 roughly. I think, can't remember how many people we had at the MVP stage. Maybe 9.
So with that MVP stage, then how come you took the decision of going in-house rather than outsourcing? Is it something that you were always wanting to do? Maybe some experience from Transferwise?
I think like from my own kind of personal way of working, I've worked in like multiple different kind of ways, from the outsourcing companies, like something in the middle, and like fully inside internal companies or internal people. I think that it depends on what kind of people you need, what kind of people you're able to get into the position of like launching a product and building a product and whatnot. So I think we were incredibly fortunate because we knew people, like for example, we knew engineers who have already built like really similar products in really challenging environments. So we knew that they are really good people. We have a personal experience with these people, and we know that they actually have really good experience in this particular domain. So for us, it was super useful to bring these people in from the get-go and start working towards directly like how do we build our product in a way we would like to build. Also, like I think like me and Mikkel both have been building investment products or like finance products for a while, so we have a rather good understanding what needs to happen and what can't happen there, and like what kind of problems you will hit in the next 5 to 10 years effectively. So you design that in the right way from the get-go. So I think to answer your question, our preference and experience and everything fall into the position where we can actually build that really quickly in-house.
Were the guys that you took as your engineers, were they all people that you previously worked with before, that you've taken maybe from other places, people you had that trust with? How did you hire those first 9 hires?
It's always a magical question, like how do you hire people? It's always hard because you're never in a good place. You're too early, you have no idea, you have no financing or whatnot in a way. So I think for us, a lot of that came down to kind of personal relationship with various different people, or kind of our friends validating that we are doing something interesting, we are moving in the right direction and whatnot. Because we hired most of the team in a stealth mode as well. We didn't announce anybody what we are doing, why are we doing, and whatnot. So we just didn't want to distract ourselves. So we said like we're building something. This is our experience. We're looking at these kind of people, and then somehow we kind of went for a lot of Tinder dates and found these people.
Obviously, we're speaking about your time at Transferwise. You've obviously had a position as VP of Operations at Radix as well. Tell me about these roles which you've had most recently before you went into Lightyear. How have these skills which you've learned over your career helped you build Lightyear so successful in under 2 years? Going at a speed at how you're growing is incredible. So
in Wise, I joined really early stage, and I joined to build the product. I don't think nobody really had a good title at that stage. Like we were barely operating anywhere, and I spent roughly 5 years trying to figure out like how to scale this company. And during this 5 years time, I was responsible for product, but also taking a secondary job. One time I was running the operational world and also the people world. So, but if you like start to look into like what makes a good company, then I think like all of these kind of positions were really valuable. Like you are building a product for your customers, and like that's valuable for every single kind of position or company where you are, but also like going into and understanding like how to like operationally run the company or understand what makes sense there kind of helps you to go a little bit closer to the customer and understand what customers really need. And then I think the last thing, the people position was turning around and looking inside of the company. And like if you I think to build a really good product, you need really good people. So in the end, like the kind of HR and people actually has a really strong role to play in the organization of making sure that you have these good people that are working in the right way, and they're like actually motivated and happy to do that. In Radix, I took kind of the generalist role in a way. There's a super early startup who tried to figure out where to go and what to do, and like I was there to help them to do that for a little bit. But in the end, like I think what Radix kind of helped me to understand is it's like one of their kind of view is also how to do in kind of simplify the building the financial world. And like I think the answer is it's incredibly complicated. So it's like the question is like how can you simplify that for a human and for a kind of other startups and everybody is like how to simplify finance. It should be quite a bit simple.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about challenges. We've touched on it slightly here. Tell me about the biggest challenge you've had personally at building Lightyear to date. What has been your biggest challenge?
Ooh,
big one, huh?
It's a big question. So it's always like there's a lot of challenges. I love that. Like building a startup is it's never like a smooth ride. I think there's always like how do you know that you're building the right product? How are you maintaining that speed of delivering that product? Because if you have an amazing product, everything else gets quite a bit simpler. If you have a bad product, like the growth is harder, the hiring people and all that gets harder, getting finance is harder and so on. So I think like everything revolves around like amazing products. So and now there's the question is that you can are you going to build a good product from the get-go, or you're going to move so quickly that you can have a couple of fuck-ups and iterate on top of that. And I think both have to be true to be really successful. So making sure that you are able to build that product you're not wasting time on stuff that people don't need. And if you figure out that you have wasted some time on stuff what people don't need, then you cut the losses and need to go. So I think like every single day you have a constant iterations, like how do you move your product further? And also in a way, like how do you get people to know what you're building and how are you building? So there's a softer side of like explaining what you're doing is also rather hard.
What has been the biggest pivot to date which you've had to take?
Oh, I don't think we have really pivoted in like a typical startup sense where you're going to pack everything together and say like, hey, like, our first idea was really bad and we need to go somewhere else. So we haven't done that. I don't see that happening right now. It like that happens when at one point you realize that it's like fully off. It like doesn't really make sense to do anything. But I think like you have this, we had this discussion with somebody, like you have the mini pivots and like you have this really fast iterations and trying to figure out like, I would say it's even kind of prioritizing like what you need to do and like cutting the losses in other places, like what type of product you're building. And I think at the early stage of startup, you have an idea, but if you start looking into that idea, it gets really complicated really quickly. So you're going to simplify that idea. And over time, you get into the place that you try to optimize towards some kind of point and you realize that doesn't really work. You try to optimize another type of the point that like for us has been like, what is like we know that growth is important. So what kind of growth is important? So like going into the details, like, is it good to get users? Like maybe it's not. Maybe it's good to get users who have really healthy account balances. Maybe it's users who account balance keeps growing and so on. And like I think like this is what we have kind of learned over time quite a bit is that yeah, you have this naive, really simplified manners, but like to actually be successful, you need to go and dig into that. Like what is like, for example, for our case, like what is the growth? And like for us, like a big growth lever is understanding that we are able to provide people, we're able to attract people who have healthy account balance. And why is that important? Is like because we learned over time or like defined ourselves is that if people are coming in and just gamble a little bit, then this is not the product. It doesn't solve our kind of, it doesn't kind of build a product what solves the bigger picture. So our bigger picture is like, do people get better at investing? Do people get started investing in a healthy manner and whatnot? And like in many ways, like we can acquire a lot of customers, but like important thing is that we're able to help these customers to grow their portfolio. So we are like iterating over like various different elements and try to get into the place where say like, hey, this is the important part for us. So I think like these kind of decisions happen like every couple of weeks, like where you need to figure out like something fundamental towards your customers or your product or your people and whatnot. And then you turn there, and sometimes these things don't work out. And you say like, hey, like it doesn't really make sense to launch that country right now. We are not ready. We had an idea that we're ready. We built all this stuff, throw it away. Now go and focus on another country because it doesn't really make sense.
How's that happened to you, that moment? Because obviously 9 months after 9 months after your startup actually comes to life, the creation, you move into Europe. So that's a very, very short amount of time to be so successful. Has that moment come where you've tried to go somewhere else and think, oh, that didn't work? Because that's a very quick amount of time to learn that otherwise.
Yeah, we had. I mean, like the first week, we saw a couple of countries where like our traction was really weird and rather kind of not in a way we would like to get there. So we like effectively we had this kind of top 5 countries where we tried to target first, and then like make these countries work. And then we decided to, hey, like 2 of these countries doesn't really make sense because we don't have a good enough product there. The way we're acquiring customers, like we're acquiring customers, but this is not in exactly the way we would like to. So we kind of deprioritized these countries and went into other countries. So that happened in the first week. So yeah, it happens.
So you said at the beginning there that obviously you have to change your kind of requirement outlook, everything, the way you approach every country has different kind of requirements. Would that be something that you think you could go back into those countries that didn't work in the future and you would have the means?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like the question here is that you have investing is rather complex world. Every country has their own ways to investing, the instruments, but they're investing, their taxation questions, payment methods, languages, and so on and so on. So there's a long list of things what needs to happen to have a really, really good solution there. So we have kind of really good base solution, and like in many countries, this base solution is really good. So now there's a question like which country have the best product market fit for the current solution what we have, and then we're gonna start optimizing countries one by one, and where we see that we can have like best return of investment, like where we spend our time. So effectively, we are constantly prioritizing like in a way where we're going and what are we doing in these markets. So it's not that we go away from one market. It's more about question that if our product is not capable enough in one market, then we're going to go and operate in another market and put our focus there and build the product good enough so we can go back in every single market.
What about obviously your expansion into Europe? As I said, 9 months after launch, what has been, firstly, have you coped with the amount of work that has taken? That obviously is going to take a lot if you've got to look at the different countries' requirements, all of the rules. You said you're only a 28-man team at the moment, I believe, I think you said. How have you coped with that amount of work?
You hire amazing people and trust them. So I think simple as that. So I think like it comes down to the team. Like you have people who have really good experience. They have really good ways of working. So like I think we have built the team in a way that like we're not really top-down management. It's more about like you hire the smart people, and the smart people can make decisions where to go. And then you have like really kind of focused areas, like for example, launching in Europe, and we had really focused area that everybody came together and like delivered their own part. So it's not easy because in many ways you need to try to cut the noise and do some kind of hard, difficult decisions. But as these people, A, have done it before in many ways, and B, they have kind of rather humble way of thinking that like it's not like nobody's better than other person here. It's more about like coming together, figuring out like what's needed for going after these markets, and then coming together and delivering that. So I think like the really strong team, the really experienced team, and the humble way of approaching this kind of works today really well.
Have you found it hard as a company? Have you found it hard to find your engineers at the moment? Obviously, the market's very saturated, or because of the kind of the hype that I guess that you've got around Lightyear, are you finding it relatively easy to find the people you want?
Yeah, I would even generalize that not only to engineers, but like hiring is always hard, I think, and why it's hard, it's not just going and finding people. It's more about finding these exact people you want to work with, and who will fit well into the stage and situation where you are today. So I think that's really difficult, and that has been always difficult. So I think we have been rather lucky today, or like we have gotten into the place where we have this incredibly strong team, and that kind of helps to hire the next set of superstars, because strong people want to work with the strong people. So that has been helping quite a bit. But it's still like we're spending quite a bit of time of finding really strong engineers who have a passion towards investing and complex financial systems and so on.
What is the ideal fit then for Lightyear? What is your ideal?
Ideal is the person who's really interested, or like first motivated of like solving this problem and interested in investment world. Because I see that when you have people who are really curious about how the details of investing works, then when you're building it, it gets quite a bit more interesting for you, because you're going to go into all the back alleys and understand how actually something works in a brokerage. But also, these people are more proactive, look into the new ideas. They understand what the customer wants. They're talking to customers. Like a lot of this kind of investment knowledge, experience, motivation falls into your results, and like gets quite a bit better. And then people enjoy working with you because you know how this stuff works, and you have like really experienced people around you in a similar, maybe different knowledge set, and like you learn from each other. So I think that's like the first basics what we are looking into. And then like every other kind of position has their own set of criteria, but we're mostly looking to people who are who want to come in and join this kind of rather fast-moving environment where you can make a lot of your own decisions, but you're driving your own, like making where you're going, why you're making these decisions, and so on.
I mean, it's very early in the startup kind of journey. Yeah? So, I mean, they're very much in on the journey right at the beginning too.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Tell me a little bit about your future challenges. What do you see as the next challenge for you? So you kind of expanded into Europe now. Now, can you class it as you've cracked Europe? Have you cracked Europe yet? What is next?
Oh, no. Making like not only Europe, but like Europe, UK, neighboring countries, making sure that you have the best product out there. And building an investment product as the best product, as like we described before, you have like set of local requirements, what needs to happen, but also you need to have like really good way of I would say that you have to be able to make your customers successful. And like how do you do that is baking this kind of educational data, kind of the global information visibility into your app. So I think if you understand how markets are doing, how the instruments or the companies you're buying are doing, and what is your risk level, what's your portfolio risk level, and you have ability to explore and understand the world a little bit better, this is how you make really good investment product. All these things that I mentioned are rather hard to build. So if you're building access to the London Stock Exchange, that's a technical, rather straightforward thing to do. But it's hard, like it's not straightforward to actually build it. It's like a lot of effort goes into that to build this connection, but building something in a product that helps customers make the right decision is software problem, and these software problems are often order of magnitude harder because you don't have this blueprint what you need to do. Nobody has really built that. So I think the challenge for us is first build this infrastructure, and the second is how every single person, whoever you are, however you are investing, or what's interesting for you and what's your risk level, you're making the right decision. So building that product, I think, is like the most hard, like difficult thing here.
Virgin has just announced some investments into Lightyear as well. I mean, recently, what is your secret to that kind of success? I mean, now everyone's talking even more after Virgin investing into Lightyear as well. So what has been the secret? Why has it been so successful?
It's hard to say. Like I have my own assumption on that, but I think it comes down to kind of really practical problem what we are solving in the world. So if we take how big is this problem? It's huge. Is there a business in it? There's like massive business in it. Is it broken? Yes, it's incredibly broken. So if you take the kind of the market and all that, then I think we are in a really good place to actually solve and make a difference on this huge business market. So we don't need to imagine that somebody will in the future invest. It's like it's actually there. People do that today. So the second part is I think like the team, we have mentioned so many times that the team is really well positioned to actually solve this problem. So like you as an investor, you think of like, hey, it's a massive market. Who are these people? Can they solve this thing? And like they looked at our team and what we have been done in the previous and what we are doing right now. So that yeah, it kind of makes sense that these people are able to solve this problem. And the third thing is I think the kind of speed or acceleration what we have shown over the last year and a half is that if you're able to move quickly and if you're quicker than everybody else, then you can do maybe a little bit more mistakes because you learn quickly from these mistakes. But the speed helps you iterate on a product, iterate on the customer proposition, iterate the way you're going into various different markets. And if you're able to do it really quickly and change your direction or learn from it, then it's raises your likelihood to be a winner again. So I think coming back, like what the investors are looking for is like a massive market, what's incredibly broken, and some team who's challenging that, and they have kind of shown that they're able to challenge that. Then I think that has created us or put us into this interesting position where people want to join our journey.
How come you have been able to do it much faster than everyone else? But I'm guessing that comes back down to the team and the trust you've got to them.
So I think we are hiring quality over quantity, and that helps us quite a bit. So when we are looking to people around us, how we're operating and how we're moving, then it's actually really helpful to be. We're quite small team compared to the kind of most fintechs and finance world in a way, but like we can sit down and move incredibly quickly. So the moment when you start scaling into like big teams and maybe blur the kind of responsibilities, then there's a lot of you have a lot of overhead and a lot of communication questions and whatnot. So I think today, having a really clear goal for a rather small team, that actually helps us deliver more than having a big team around here.
With that in mind, then obviously a small team, a lot of pressure, a lot of work on your team's shoulders and your shoulders. How do you kind of balance this work-life balance at Lightyear? Is there like a real strict understanding of work-life balance, or is there, we're a startup, we're in the early years, we've just got to crack on?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of stuff to do. I think that's true. I think in a weird way, we're not the company what has only like really super young people in it. So in many ways you have a startup hustle. It's just like all 19-year-olds and like going crazy. Like for us it's like most people have kids. Most people have some experience from the previous lives. And I think that kind of comes in that a lot of people join us on the success of the stuff, what they have done in previously. And do you have the success in the previous life? You have a little bit older, like you're not old, you're still like 30s or something like that. But you have some experience, you have life already, you have a family, dogs and whatnot in a way. So we kind of enjoy that. So we have a lot of dogs in office. We have kids running around often here because they have a school holiday or whatnot in a way. I think it's kind of weird to not kind of have a life in the business in a way that we're all kind of, we have partners, or like most of us have partners and kids and families and all that stuff. And it kind of makes sense to spend time with them as well. And you have some responsibilities from that side, or going to the doctor and whatnot. So you have to have this kind of flexible work environment. So we're definitely not kind of remote company. We're not set up for the remote, but we started from the COVID times in 2 different countries where people couldn't travel into the office and whatnot. Means everything is doable effectively through this Mac screen, and people can work from home or from holiday home or whenever they want to do. And this kind of gives this kind of flexibility to have your life a little bit more in order. You can have your dog in the office, so it's like you don't need to worry about that. So it's like this kind of structure of being, I would say, like more human, I think makes sense.
Okay, let's talk about a little bit about the future. Future trends of the market. What are they?
Ooh, I think like I'm rather boring here. So the boring stuff will happen. So people will start investing more. People will have access to low-cost instruments or low-cost infrastructure a little bit more. So I think like it's not here. It will take multiple years to get here in a way that if you want to invest, there is a really good solution for that. I think that's kind of infrastructure trend, and the second trend is like this kind of education, Google Maps style investing, where like why I'm saying Google Maps is that something where does ridiculous amount of work and compares the data and whatnot and like simplifies that for you in the radical way. So I think today we're still in a place that, yeah, I can go and select an instrument from 3,000 stocks and ETFs around the world and like make a good decision, but it's really hard for many people. It's like you're having this phone book and like you need to go through everything to understand where you're going. Today you open up the Google Maps and this is mind-blowing amount of data what kind of figures out like who you are, what do you want to do? You want to eat something? Then like these are all the good restaurants and these are pictures of these restaurants and they're open now. There's a good recommendation. I order you a taxi and you go there. So think about that in the investment world. Like I don't know where I want to go. And like I can say that, hey, I would like to get started investing, and they will help you to have this map and this kind of guide there to make these steps. Or I can say that, hey, I want to invest into more riskier assets because whatever and so on. And they're going to select you these kind of things and help you to make these steps. So I think this kind of personalized way of taking the heavy data and simplifying that in a way, it's not going to dumb it down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like a lot of kind of companies think that you take this lot of data and you simplify that to the level that the customer really doesn't understand what they're doing. And I don't think that works. So think about it in this Google Maps example is that if Maps would say that, found you the best restaurant, but I'm not going to say where it is or what restaurant it is. It's just like, don't worry, car will come, jump in, and like at one point you will get food. And like when you arrive, you understand it's maybe a fish restaurant and you don't eat fish or something like that. So like I think this kind of dumbing down is a real danger here. So the trick is like how to do it in a clever way that people are in control and understand what's happening with their finances. And more and more I see that people are steering away from the services who will say that like, I'm a banker, trust me, I will make a decisions for you. It's more about like, hey, these are the options. Do you like any of these? Click here. And now I'm going to explain why these options make sense for you. And then you're able to actually use this. So I think that change hasn't happened yet. So, but it will happen because a lot of people do that already. They go to the wealth management and the wealth management explains you what you're doing, still charging an arm and a leg, and they're not always honest with you or the fees and everything around that. But I think a lot of that should move into the kind of digital investment world, what helps you to guide you through that.
And do you think that change is going to happen even, obviously we've got the looming recession, economic downturn, everything's a little bit up in the air at the moment. Do you think the industry is kind of bulletproof in terms of what's going to happen with the economy? Will people still invest? Will they think about investing more?
People have invested like many years, and we have seen so many different kind of downturns, markets going up and down and sideways. So like investing doesn't go anywhere. If anything, I think people start to think more about how to protect themselves into kind of future weirdness. So think about it if you have like taking a step back, like the reason why we start building this business is like we believe that people should get access to the global growth. And like you can see the global economy is growing and people really don't have an access there. Like, like you don't have everybody doesn't like have a kind of really simple way to own a part of that. And if that global growth grows, then your part grows as well. So I think that's true. So now in today's world, you have like inflation coming in, like your money loses value. You don't know what to do and what not. If you are in a stage where you have nothing, it's rather scary. Like you don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. So I would like to make sure that in the next kind of downturn we're going to go, you shouldn't have this worry. Like you have invested over the last 10, 20 years, you have benefit from dollar cost averaging, you have compound interest coming in. Like you don't even need to know about these things, but you benefit from them. And now like if you have invested already like 20 years, today you have a recession coming in and you have a downturn, then it doesn't really make a difference from you, because this small blip down doesn't change the composition of your portfolio or long-term view. You still are in a good place, and you can go through the next couple of years when it's kind of really rougher on the markets. So in that sense, it's actually more than ever, you need like really good products to position yourself in a way that you are less affected with the global weirdness what can happen.
In terms of advice for all of our other founders listening to this podcast, what is the advice that you could give them when starting out on their founder's journey? What do you now know which you didn't know when you started your founder's journey? Was there anything which you thought, I've really learned this over the last 2 years?
I think like, you know, most of this stuff, but you just don't kind of act always like that. First and foremost is launch as fast as possible. Like, I think we have launched now 3 times, coming out of the stealth and coming out of the one market and coming in out to the European market. Every single time that has like significantly changed on the focus where we are focusing at the moment. So you know that in the back of your head, you have built a lot of stuff previously, but still you're in this place that, am I ready to launch this? Is this good enough? What's going to be feedback? Do other people think weirdly of you and whatnot? So, but like, I think the real answer is that nobody really cares what you do. Only thing what happens when you're launching is that you get the feedback that, hey, you should focus on that thing and you shouldn't focus on that. So simplifies everything, because people are like really good. You can sit in an office and build stuff and fantasize about all the problems and potential traps, what might happen, but a lot of that might not happen. So you are wasting your time in a weird stuff. So I think that's definitely like one thing, that if you launch fast, quickly, be embarrassed about your product, whatnot, this makes your company quite a bit better. The second thing is spend time getting really good people in. That's such a like short and long-term win. It's easy to hire somebody just to fill the hole. But the moment you do that, your focus goes away. If that person is not superstar, really, really good, then you can expect something come from there, and you might postpone actually fixing the problems on this market. So I think we have spent considerable time finding really, really good people, not only like the titles and previous experience, but also like the way people are working and whatnot. So bringing in the people who you would like to work, who are actually smarter than you, you're setting up the company in a better state. I've heard, think on your own. So a lot of people who give you an advice, it's mostly shit. So feel free to ignore a lot of smart people who are not really going and digging into your business. I like to kind of think it in a way that I love to get a lot of feedback in from various different sets of people. And obviously there are some weights of like some people who have done it before, some people who have maybe vested interest or whatnot. In a way, you kind of rank it in a way, and in the end, you make your own decision what makes sense and what doesn't. So a lot of advisors have never actually built anything like that. They have no understanding what your business is doing and so on. So doing your own decisions and like building the confidence on that front.
Hey guys, it's me again. If you enjoyed this episode of the show, be sure to press the thumbs up button below. And also, whilst you're there, hit subscribe. Otherwise, you could miss out on all of our interesting content we've got coming your way in the near future. Okay, guys, take care and see you soon.